And just like that, they buy it. They eat it up. You pander to them, you thank them. I mean, really, people, I thought you were a little bit smarter than that. I mean, it's just so easy to say the name of the city. You cheer.
Hey, Stephanie,
you cheer. I mean, just come on.
Welcome to the A Show.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the A Show with the Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am Justin, here with Meelz. It is A Show 149, and we are reaching the end of the summer. I'm so bummed, but so glad because 2020 is almost over.
Are you really bummed? Like what's to be bummed about, to be honest with you? I mean, the summer hasn't been great. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't even want to talk about the summer because the summer, I don't know. It's just...
It was no summer. My summer's only great because great things happened to me. Other than that.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think in terms of like an RNC radio thing, it's been a great summer for us.
Absolutely.
Like we have at least that to be thankful for. And then also like, doing 149 episodes, not completely like killing one another, not completely, exploding, mega powers explode thing. I think, we have a lot to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
But, we're here, 149 episodes in.
We've had such a crazy couple of days on wrestling. We've had departures, we've had returns, we've had a whole new arena, a whole new stadium to talk about wrestling. And let's get right into the news with at the top of the show, Renee Young has left the WWE. She announced this late last week. There was reports late last week after we recorded the A Show. She confirmed it on Sunday's Summerslam pre-show panel, and she was gone as of Monday. She did leave a comment or an Instagram post basically saying, "Hey, this is going to be my last. That was going to be my last day." And she said that she will actually, interestingly enough, still be on WWE backstage, which is kind of a kind of puts some thoughts into where her contract was and how it landed. So it seems to me like she's not really done. From what I've heard, she's not really done with WWE. She's just leaving early. Her contract isn't up, but she's still required to do WWE backstage.
Huh. Interesting. I think, let me turn my friggin' phone off. How about that?
Yeah, come on. Turn that off.
Listen, I put on Do Not Disturb mode. But, I think just in general, Renee Young, wow, said she was leaving. I'll be honest with you. Look at the pre-show for SummerSlam. She looks completely checked out. Not to say.
Oh my God! Hold on. We just got breaking news. Wade Barrett is joining the NXT announce team this week.
Woo-hoo! All right, turn that up.
Wow, that is the most excitement you've ever had in your life.
I love Wade Barrett. What? Come on. I love Wade Barrett. I don't know if you know this. I love Wade Barrett. Bad News Barrett was my shit. King Barrett was the shit. This is one more step for him to possibly return and do the damn thing again. I thought he was given a rough shake. Whoa, sorry, Renee.
Hold on. Let's get through Renee first, and then I'll talk about what Pro Wrestling Sheet has reported here.
Yeah, I'll say this like I said, on the pre-show, she looked kind of like really checked out, like, and more so like, I'm not hosting, I'm not doing anything, I'm kind of just here because I was told to be here, and I think everyone kind of wants to say goodbye. It was, I think, her first appearance on WWE, cameras since I think before she caught COVID. So it was, an interesting kind of setup, but she looked exactly like how anyone would look if you put in your 2 weeks notice and you decided I'm going to leave a week early. That's exactly how she looked.
To me, it seemed like she's leaving months early. The backstage thing, I'm not sure if it's a Fox contract and a WWE one or a joint one, but it seems like she's not completely done with the E yet. But she is open to go to other sports channels right now. So again, no one will ever say that Renee Young isn't the most, talented. We talk a lot of stuff about people that get released on this show. Let's be clear, but Renee Young is she's a one of a kind talent that I don't think they'll be able to replace very easily. I mean, you have Charlie Caruso, obviously, but Charlie, she fulfills a different role. I think Charlie is much more adept at being the Johnny on the spot. I think she's really good at that. But Renee, to me, could reach so many avenues. And to be fair, they're trying with Charlie and Kayla Braxton. Of course, Kayla Braxton is taking over Talking Smack, which returned over the weekend. But they're all kind of running through Renee's playbook, so to speak. And I think, Renee set the tone for everyone and set the standard so that there could be a Charlie or a Kayla on NXT in Raw or SmackDown commentary. And, that they could host shows on Fox and, they could be kind of like the front facing representation of WWE. And I think that, more power to Renee. I think that to me, wrestling is very low class for her. I think to me, the sky for her is like ESPN, it's CBS Sports, it's Fox, it's Fox Sports, FS1, whatever. I think that there's a higher ceiling for her than where she was, and I think more power to her for leaving and knowing her worth.
I want to say all the great things that you said. I completely agree with. I do think that WWE, she's always been, I don't want to say too good for wrestling because WWE is still a major thing. It still reaches tons of homes, but once again, it's still in its kind of bubble that people maybe not outside of WWE will not know who the hell you are. But she's incredibly awesome at her job, and I think she's a great commodity for the WWE. And you talk about the signings that they had over the last decade. We talk about the Kevin Owens, the Sami Zayns, even the Brock Lesnars, and everybody. The people that they've acquired over the last number of years, she has been a major acquisition, I think, in terms of revolutionizing the role of women in media in WWE, in terms of just being a great personality that is completely beloved by everybody. There's no one who says a bad thing about Renee Young, about how she is, about her job, about anything else. I'm going to miss her, but then again, it's weird because I hope that she goes on to do something completely different and completely amazing and completely groundbreaking herself. Ellen might have a slot open. She could host the Ellen show. Who knows? I don't know. But
she shouldn't inherit. She shouldn't inherit that that issue. No. Don't inherit that. You've been from one toxic workplace to the next. Don't do that.
Yeah. No, but it's great. Best of wishes to Renee. We love Renee here at the A Show, and sad to see her go, but we're excited to see what she's got coming up next.
Moving along, WWE 24 WrestleMania 36 aired over last weekend. Did you get a chance to peep it?
Oh yeah, I watched it when I saw you tweeting about all these things. I was like, oh, I definitely got to watch it, especially after they dropped that clip of Vince McMahon jumping off that balcony,
which is a 2-minute part of the show of a lot of different things. To me, it was. I felt like they were holding some stuff back on that one. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like of all of the WrestleMania 24s, this one was possibly the weakest, but the one that I was most excited about. I didn't need to see too much about the Rhea Ripley thing. It felt like it almost felt like, and I don't know if you felt this way too, it almost felt like they were selling this to an audience that never watched it before. And when I really wanted
which is probably going to happen eventually.
Yeah, this is going to end up on Fox, right? So it's going to end up somewhere else. And that's the big mark I have against it. But I really like the Kevin Owens part where he said, I want to jump off of this. And I really enjoyed WWE for once saying, hey, COVID is real. You know what I'm saying? This is the reason why this has happened. I really enjoyed those parts, but in all, that and the Untold Sasha and Bailey from the weekend were two of my favorite things that I watched.
Oh my God.
Really good.
God, I never almost cried at watching an Untold ever. Legitimately 2 times. That's how powerful that was. That match, you go back to the Bailey and Sasha match from 5 years ago at NXT Brooklyn. It's still one of my favorite live moments and probably still one of the best matches I've ever seen live, period. Yeah. And just to kind of get the untold of that, the backstory, the trepidation, the lack of preparation, but at the same time, the growth of both of them at the same, going at the same speed, kind of parallel their NXT careers. It was, being able to actually look back at it is incredible.
Right.
I would say that.
So when you get a chance, everyone needs to watch that. They're on the network now. I personally thought the Untold was a little bit stronger, but if you wanted to see how they set up the WrestleMania 36 stuff, there isn't going to be a lot of.
Would have been an interesting thing for the WrestleMania thing. That's like one of the last times we see Becky Lynch,
right?
So like to follow Becky Lynch around and at least get like how she was feeling or anything like that. Well, maybe they didn't want to do that. Maybe it was a bunch of morning sickness and all this other stuff like that. But to be able to go through her life and even like a Shayna Baszler, right? Shayna Baszler, this is her first time on any sort of WrestleMania at all, and they just kind of like breeze through it. So I think, yeah, I agree with you. It could have been a lot stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Check that out on the network. It's there. It's really good. It should be like in the front, right next to NXT Takeover, which we're going to touch on just a little bit today. Cyrus will be back on the War Report this week, talking all about NXT and AEW. He's going to have a special guest. He hasn't even told us who it's going to be. So it's going to be somebody special.
I have no idea who it's going to be.
I don't know who it's going to be. So make sure you subscribe to us on the A Show RNC. Listen to the War Report this week coming out, I believe, Friday. And Cyrus will be talking about NXT TakeOver more in depth. But before we talk about TakeOver, there was something that happened over the weekend with Talking Smack, which returned this weekend or last weekend with Big E and The Miz, which has got people. There's always something, right? Last week it was Mickey James.
What is there with Talking Smack and The Miz that people just seem to generally? He just starts fires on Talking Smack for whatever reason, and people just react to it however the hell they react to it.
Yeah, it seems a little ridiculous this time though. Like the first time it was like cool. This is a moment. This isn't even really to me like a moment. This is really and to give more background into it. The online discourse over a certain group of people have said that they felt Big E should be more serious and not I won't say he's a goofball, but not charismatic as he is, on the New Day in the singles run.
Right.
Miz brings this up completely in character on Talking Smack, and he says basically, we love you, Big E, we think you're great, but you need to be more serious. You're still gyrating your hips and blah blah blah. And Big E basically goes on to talk about his mission statement for who he is as a character. And when I saw it, I thought of it as, and I don't want to speak for you, Meelz, but I saw it as, oh, this is WWE saying, stop thinking we're going to change his character because we're not. This is Big E given a chance to basically say, this is who I am. This is what I'm not going to do. And them taking the online fervor and saying, listen, we see you guys talking, but this is how we're going to do the story. And people still chose this as a racial angle that Miz was being serious. And like people like Andreas Hale were just like, this is an example of, white privilege in the workplace. And it's just like, this is the most work of works. Like the Miz
right.
Daniel Bryan thing was probably 75% of shoot. This is literally about 89 to 95% of work. I just didn't understand the fervor over this.
So I do think, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's anything sort of created by WWE. The Miz works. The Miz works all the time. And even when it's like, he's not working the actual character in the ring, he's still working else places. He's still like, he's from that kind of Hollywood scene where there always have to be, he's hosting constantly. He's just kind of like in a mode that he turns on. And it would be, foolish to say that they haven't seen this discourse about Big E, at least that Booker T has, put out over the last number of weeks, and we talked about it on a couple of A shows ago regarding just like, oh, he's not serious to be WWE title contender ready. The Miz, in my opinion, throws a complete softball. I don't know if I can't say it was the WWE's thing because it seems like Talking Smack is a very loosely scripted show compared to their heavily scripted shows where everything is kind of like, well, yeah, scripted. So it feels like a loosely scripted show. So he throws a softball for Big E to kind of just knock out the park. And I think that's exactly what Big E did. Now, in terms of just the discourse of like, I think this is a general example of, in the workplace. But I do think that The Miz was like, okay, I'm here playing devil's advocate. And I'm here saying, okay, here's what I think, and da-da-da-da. So Big E can knock it out the park again because he's a fan of Big E and he's a friend of Big E. He was legitimately on the New Day's podcast earlier this week. Like, that's what is so funny about kind of the discourse around this thing because it's clearly, if you even look at kind of Miz's history and just everybody, he's worked with everybody and he's decided, hey, I'm going to try my best to make everyone look good. That's what the Miz does. He tries to make he did it with Alex Riley, all those other things. I don't need to talk about it because then I go into the whole Miz spiel. However,
please don't.
This was kind of one of those. I'm just not. This was one of those things. And I think it's crazy. I don't want to say it's crazy because it's kind of like,
hey,
it more plays off as like satire, which people kind of just like decided to take the bait and kind of fall into.
And I know it's sensitive, and far be it from us to talk about how sensitive these types of relations are. But I'm sorry, this is supposed to be our escape. Essentially, this is supposed to be some sort of an escape. Once you're bringing like. And again, you get kind of touchy when you talk about like bringing social stuff into this. Like there's you look at what's happening with the NBA, the NFL, MLB. Like these are crossing lines. But again, like I don't think that that company would bring in any type of strife internally if they didn't have to.
Right, 100%.
So I'm trying to be careful here too, because I don't want to make it seem like, hey, shut up and wrestle. But it's like they should talk about it, and WWE does allow Big E and Kofi and Xavier and anyone else to make any statements that they want to, socio-politically that they want to. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to, but I'm saying this wasn't the hill to die on here. This wasn't it.
No,
it wasn't. This was kind of, y'all could have just let this one go as a really good promo from Big E. He spit that shit and just keep it moving. So
right, he added some. Don't get me wrong. He added some incredibly real elements to it because he was talking about Kofi and like, listen, Kofi's too humble to say that he is one of the best to kind of do it right now, and if he's too humble to say it, I'm gonna say it. And he added some real elements into it, and I think that's kind of what Talking Smack has always been. Just a general show. It gives the talent an opportunity to kind of sound off and speak from a real place and get themselves over. And I think that's exactly what the point of this was. I don't think it was really point to really like, oh my God, Big E's doing it wrong and did a social strife. Like you said, I don't think it was the hill to die on. I really don't. Yeah. It wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't that big of a deal.
It's not.
But it wasn't, it just wasn't the hill to die on. Like, it's clearly a work. It's a work.
Yeah, y'all need to relax.
It's a work. They're chuckling it up on the New Day podcast this week. You can listen to that podcast this week. Trust me, it's a work.
White privilege. That's all I gotta say. Let's talk about Takeover 30 really quick. Really, just quick thoughts so we can run into SummerSlam. We have SummerSlam and another pay-per-view to talk about, so we have to kind of.
Yeah, listen. I mean, we did the predictions. You might as well be able to talk a little bit about the show. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'll say this about NXT Takeover 30. I thought, gosh, I don't know. Part of me thought it could have been a lot more grander, but given the situation that we're in, blah 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 blah. But I do think it could have been grander.
Yeah,
but it was fine. I think it was just by name 30, but not by like practice of like let's bring in a bunch of people from the. I mean, they did, but they do that every takeover. But I thought it could have been a little bit more grander. But we got what we got. We got a great opening match between Finn Balor and what's my man Timothy Thatcher?
What a different match that Finn Balor's ever had.
Yeah,
I think the challenge with Timothy is them attempting to make his style adaptable to a mainstream audience,
sports entertainment.
Yeah, and because it's so like the first thing this motherfucker does is put on a leg lock, and I'm like, oh, we're in for something here.
Yeah, 100%. But Finn, he skipped to his Lou. You know what I'm saying?
Finn is gonna have a Finn match regardless of who he's in there with.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll say this, though. This wasn't the typical Finn match because I think Finn, a lot of times, especially with kind of like how the WWE style is, he hits a lot of the beats.
Yep.
He didn't hit a lot of the beats in this one. He didn't do it wasn't a lot of like, sling blade into corner drop kick into thing. It wasn't a lot of that. It was a lot of like, okay, let me try to stand side by side with Timothy Thatcher.
Yeah.
So I personally, I love the match.
I think the big talk coming out of it is, of course, the main event and Pat McAfee's performance against Adam Cole. I think Pat shut up a lot of haters. I saw your tweets. They were head scratching at best, but of course we predicted Adam Cole would come out on top. I thought Pat McAfee did a great job. I mean, somersault planches, going up for superplexes. I mean, he did stuff that, and I said this from the beginning. So I need you to tell me, I need you to give me my props. I said, I think that I don't think he's just doing this for no reason. I think he's actually going to surprise us, and wait till the match happens before we shit on the angle. And I think they ended the angle masterfully with Pat showing that he was up to the task, but Adam eventually, and I thought they really played around it so well. Like the first time, basically Adam gets, taken advantage of by Pat was because he did the planche on the floor. That's what led Adam to be a lot more hurt than usual. Like they didn't open it up like Pat was the greatest wrestler in the world. It was literally Adam getting outsmarted. And I thought that was the way they did the psychology behind this was pretty sound.
No, I think you're right. I'll say this. What Pat did was incredibly impressive.
Wow.
However, he still sucks. As much as that can make sense, it makes sense in my brain. So I'm just going to go with that. But I do still think he sucks. But what he did was impressive. Man did. I mean, I can do, if someone asks me if I can do, a front flip off the top rope, maybe,
Oh,
I might be able to.
Your muscles won't allow that.
I might be able to. Nah, I've been doing that like a kid. I've been doing swanton bombs off of anything forever.
Off the fire escape of your apartment complex and shit.
Oh, shut the fuck up. But either way, I thought, you know what? He did the damn thing. I'm not even gonna lie. He did it. They did a match. They had a match. It was good. I thought it was, and to be honest, it's probably the first or second most talked about match on the show. No one's talking about the Io Shirai match at all. Nobody. Right.
Not a damn soul. The main event, Karrion Kross, Keith Lee, they did it. They really did it. They had Karrion go over Keith Lee. People were pissed. I think we saw the writing on the wall there, just with how final that defeat was. We learned seconds later after the show ended that Karrion Kross had a separated shoulder. We don't have any new news on that other than Karrion telling ESPN on Sunday morning, I believe, that he doesn't believe that he'll miss a lot of time for the separated shoulder. So it might be a minor injury, but NXT is they keep this type of stuff so close to the vest that we're not sure when he'll show up. But I think the biggest thing that let us know on Saturday that Karrion was going to win was the fact that Ciampa is coming back on Wednesday. So I thought they couldn't have they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, they should have done that. It was, to me, the moment I think we both picked Keith to go in terms of predictions, and I think it was still kind of lopsided before you go there, but when they did it, like, legitimately, like, minutes before the match started, saying Tommaso Ciampa returns on Wednesday, I was like, oh, never mind. Like, he's just going to come back and, enter the picture again.
Well, there was a lot of outrage and hurt and pain and just agony over Keith Lee losing the title. No, 47-day reign, you did him wrong. But then on Sunday, we got a huge Keith Lee commercial of him moving up to Raw.
That's how it goes. And I think that's a possibility that we explored as well last week, because we believe that Keith Lee, even from the moments of Survivor Series last year to the Royal Rumble to kind of a lot of other different moments in his NXT career thus far, he's always kind of displayed the beats of like a main roster superstar. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the show, but he's going to show that. Yeah. But I thought the match itself, and I don't want to give, I don't want to take too much from Cyrus and special guests, but I thought the match I thought Keith Lee did a great job with Karrion Kross in that match. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He did. I will say that. I think Keith Lee did an amazing job in putting over to the fact that when it happened, I was like, oh, that
you couldn't even be mad at it. You couldn't even be mad at it. Like I was like, they had a spectacular, and you know what was crazy about it? And again, people were complaining about this. It was so unlike any NXT title match we've ever seen before. And if that is the case, I'm completely fine with a nice 20-minute NXT title match to end the show. 15-minute title match to end the show. We haven't had that for so long. It was a breath of fresh air for me, one. Two, the way that it was worked, it wasn't a bunch of guys doing flippy stuff and kicking out of a bunch of stuff. I think there was only like 2 or 3 pinfalls in the match period. And I thought that Karrion, again, was able to show his hybrid style of power brawler, technical, and I thought Keith Lee worked around that. And they also, what was interesting to me, they didn't have Keith doing planchas and code reds and stuff like that. They had Keith properly playing a big man in a babyface fight from under role, and eventually it caught up to him, and he couldn't handle it anymore, and he lost. So bravo to Keith, bravo to Karrion. I hope he's not hurt. I would love to see him face other people on the show. But yeah, that is, I'm going to leave the ladder match for Cyrus on the War Report, but I thought the ladder match was pretty good too.
Yeah.
So we have SummerSlam. You want to take this?
Yeah, let's talk about SummerSlam a little bit, because first of all, we have to, before SummerSlam itself, we kind of got a taste of what the Thunderdome is last Friday on SmackDown, the first ever live SmackDown in quite some time. Actually, I don't even know if it's quite some time, but live from the Thunderdome. Live from the trademark Thunderdome. Let's talk about our first thoughts on the Thunderdome. How do you like it? Do you feel like they've got everything kind of like figured out? Are we still figuring things out? Do you like the kind of interactive fan experience with this?
I know, and again, Cyrus can probably speak to this as well as like people like Juan and Nelson, who also did it last week. I think the look, to me, everyone was completely negative. And again, I know this. We're going to talk about this a lot in the show. The wrestling Twitter right now is like literally a wasteland of opinions. People hated this without seeing this in person, with like blurry Android screenshots. What was happening when they did a test run last Thursday? Then when Friday hit, everyone was like, "Oh, it actually looks good." I think look-wise, it's something that from WWE I've never seen. It looks like a mini Mania. You know what I'm saying? It looks like a mini Mania set. And I think that, again, and look at the ratings this week, everything's up across the board for every show, because this was a big deal. And this is a shot in the arm that they needed, as well as the angles that we're going to talk about in SummerSlam and going into the new shows. This was a shot in the arm that they needed. The PC, people were talking about, oh, I'm going to miss the PC era. I'm fucking not. I'm done with the PC. I'm not going to miss the PC era. I'm fucking...
Get that out of here.
Please stop. This is way better. It makes them look big time. It makes them look like a company that people put $1 billion into. So shout out to them for actually turning this over, in the time that they turned it over. However, my only caveat was that the sound, right? Like they have canned sound for the crowd. And on SmackDown, it was way too loud. At SummerSlam, though, it was just right? And it was like you could barely even notice that it was a fake crowd noise. Raw, right back to garbage. It was really loud. Like, there was one point where Drew was giving a promo, and then he had to stop because it was so jarring. He was like, "Oh, I love the Thunderdome." And I was just like, "No, you don't."
I was just like, you have no idea what's going on, do you?
Exactly.
You have nothing in your ear. You don't know how the sound is. It's terrible. It sounds like there's a smattering of people just having their own side conversations as he's speaking.
Right. It sounded like he was in a bar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, pretty much. Like, that's my only gripe with it is, too. I think... I had an initial, I was like, oh, they're going to have to get rid of that background thing. But it looks, honestly, it looks fine. And the fact that they've managed to fit however many people, hundreds or 1,000 or however many of these tiny little screens and tiny little people in there, and managing to do that 2 times a week, 3 times a week, multiple times until, whenever this thing runs out at the end of a couple months from now. But it looks great. It looks fantastic. And the presentation just looks... up to par. And I think the presentation itself lent to, imagine if we're still in the PC, right? And what happens at SummerSlam happens at SummerSlam.
Oh, hell no.
I think the presentation lent itself to one of the biggest moments that we've seen in quite some time, and the one that we've wanted for quite some time. And that was the return of the big dog, Roman Reigns. You'll never see it coming. I don't think any of us saw it coming. He returned well, maybe you, but he returned at the conclusion of the main event between The Fiend and Braun Strowman, which The Fiend defeated Braun Strowman because Braun Strowman is ass. Let's talk about it. The return, Roman Reigns. How do we feel?
I gotta well, obviously we love it. We're gonna gush over it for about 5 minutes here, but I want to talk before that the way WWE set it up was, I thought, really interesting and smart. almost to the extent where it kind of sucked for Alexa Bliss. But going into this, we
K Camp, shout out to her.
They cut her off for real. We knew there needed to be a big moment on the Thunderdome to kind of kick it off right. And we'd heard that the Drew McIntyre Randy Orton thing wasn't going to main event. So we thought it was going to be Retribution that was coming out, right? The whole night we're waiting for Retribution.
Yeah.
The whole night we're waiting for the lights to go out. So at the end of the night, we're like, okay, I guess we're going to get Retribution attacking The Fiend. And the camera work to me, and this is a company that doesn't do camera work very, very well, or if at all lately, especially with the Rey Mysterio match from Raw. But they had The Fiend holding up the belt. Then he looks over to his left, and I was like, okay, there goes Retribution. Boom! Out the side of the screen, it's Roman, and I hopped out my seat like, holy fuck, he's fucking back.
Oh my God.
And it was like the way Michael Cole even like was just like, who is that? It was like he was wearing all black too, which is also awesome because you're still thinking it's Retribution until he flips his hair up and you see it's Roman Reigns. I thought it was a spectacular reveal. I think Roman immediately gives SmackDown a shot in the arm. Where on Friday, I'm like, I'm fucking watching that show.
First of all,
I'm watching SmackDown every week.
100%. Because Roman Reigns returned. First of all, he's jacked. He's got a t-shirt, wreck everything and leave, whatever. He's got new Hollywood teeth. He is in here.
He got cartoon teeth.
Oh my God. But he came. I mean, this is something that we've been looking forward to for quite some time. And we wasn't sure it was going to happen, at least in this COVID era. But now we can promptly move over the Thunderdome era of WWE, and Roman Reigns returns. It's a shot in the arm immediately after he's targeting the Universal Championship. All seems again right in the world. Like you're looking at everything back in the WWE picture, especially after the SummerSlam card, and it's like, wow, there's Sasha and Bayley, and oh my God, this Drew thing is all hidden, and oh my God, Roman Reigns is back. Like you're here, and you're like, oh my God. We're going to be all right.
But it also lends some credence because, of course, on SmackDown Friday, we saw AJ Styles lose the IC title. I think some things are opening up, if you will, for Roman to have some dance partners if he does indeed take the title back. It was announced very, very quickly on Raw, but countlessly throughout the show that there's going to be a triple threat, no holds barred Universal title match between Braun, The Fiend, and Roman Reigns for the Universal title. So we can look forward to that on Sunday. We're going to talk about our thoughts on that in a minute. Right. But immediately, Roman's back, and it's to the races. And to me, I'm just going to say it. Let's just wipe the last 5 months away.
Yeah. I mean,
of the men's division on SmackDown. It just didn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. Non-canon, completely non-canon. With that said, I mean, we have the Universal title picture, currently in thing. Another one, the WWE Championship, I thought was a better match than I thought it would be at any point. And I don't know still why I doubt Drew, but it's not so much doubting Drew as much as like Randy Orton just going through the motions for the last 15 years. But I thought Drew...
Bro, how about... We can't even doubt Randy no more, which is crazy. 2020 is wild.
I mean, I would say character work, you're right. The match work, he's still good, but he's just, he's still Randy. At the end of the day, it's still a Randy Orton match. Like, it is what it is. So you're not going to expect anything new, but I thought what they brought with this WWE Championship match, the back and forth, Randy Orton managing to kind of like dismantle Drew McIntyre, but Drew McIntyre also kind of responding, and neither of them managing to find a way to put the other one out until it came to a quick lapse of like a quick moment, a quick step away from Randy Orton where he got caught up in a backslide and he loses the match. And I thought it was incredible. Yeah. Neither man hit their finisher.
And that's going to be a big moment. We're going to talk about this again. You're trying to get caught up to the present, but that thing is going to be a big storyline when they do have their rematch. But I think it's very smart that they're prolonging the rematch with what happened on Raw. But yeah,
we'll get to that. But we also have to talk about there was another highlight match. I think the Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville hair versus hair match on Friday turned into a loser leaves WWE match. Sonya Deville is the loser in this match, so she is effectively gone from the WWE for how long? We don't know, but we know kind of sports entertainment, so she'll be back. But considering all the real life events, And we got a lot more details before the SummerSlam weekend kind of begun, and kind of like how everything shook out with, you know, the person who broke into her house and, you know, Mandy, who's also there, and everything like that, kind of how it shook out. You kind of were trying to figure out like how you would be in the right state of mind to even compete, even go to SmackDown on Friday, much less compete on a full, you know, fledged match on Sunday. So I kind of got to give it to both of them for managing to kind of like do this. And I think turning it from a hair versus hair match, which is already like a thing you kind of have to worry about in the back of your mind, is like, fuck, I'm going bald.
Yeah.
Like, on top of like, how do I deal with this whole like real life situation? She's, you know, speaking with cops and law enforcement and all these other things, but then like one day she's like has hair, and then one day she's bald.
Well, her lawyer told her not to go through with that match. That's why it changed.
Yeah. I would imagine so. Like, it's, don't do that. But the loser leaves WWE match, I mean, it was still a personal match, and I think, you know, was it the best women's match on the card? No, but I do think that they worked as well as they could with the skill set that they have. And they're both still incredibly green, but they still worked the best match they could at SummerSlam.
It was damn good. I almost went 4 on it just on the fact that it felt like a fight. There were no holds. It was just straight up like violence. I know Mandy had a little issue with the table, but other than that, I thought it was a real fight. And Sonya definitely showed me a lot. I think that Sonya, character-wise, she's one of the best heel characters on the show. I think that she handles it so much differently than any other woman on the show. And you know, whenever she comes back, you know, Lord willing, hopefully sooner than later, that she continues that streak and she's able to do that, and she makes Mandy's life a living hell again. So we can have that actual hair versus hair match going down the line. But I thought it was a really good match.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see if we can roll through a couple of these matches real quick so we can head back to the present time. But Seth Rollins defeats Dominic Mysterio, and every bit of the match I think we kind of imagine with the street fight.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins looks completely despicable. I mean, at one point in this match, he handcuffs Rey Mysterio to the ropes so you can watch him beat the shit out of his son.
Or his mom. He turned to his mom at that point.
And he turned to Angie, who looks like she got a working punch herself, to be honest with you. Like, she looks like she could whoop Seth Rollins' ass if she wanted to. I've just seen that stern look from a
I've seen that stern look from a woman before. No, I thought Seth, again, people really gave him a hard time last year in the beginning of this year. And I think that for someone who got such a hard time, he is someone who has consistently made guys look so well this year, from Drew McIntyre to Aleister Black to so many other people that he's faced this year, right down to Dominic Mysterio in his first match ever. And I thought just the little character stuff that he did, having the Halloween Havoc Rey Mysterio gear was really, like, to me, a moment where I was like, okay, Seth is good at this stuff. He knows what he's doing. Locked in. Yeah, he's good at this stuff, and this is something that he wanted. And I could tell that he and Ray and Dominic, they had so much control over the storyline as far as what they wanted to do and what they're doing. And I thought that, to me, it's one of the best storylines of the summer. To me, like, it's definitely up there where it's like, okay, this has had time put into it, it's had effort put into it, and it's had care put into it, and this is what happens. You have a really great match. And Seth, once again, carried Dominic to such a great fucking match. And props and kudos go to him. It was my favorite match of the night. That and the Asuka Sasha match were my favorite matches of the night.
You know, how did we think that Dominic did, especially in this role? I mean, we have a role where back-to-back days on this weekend, we see Pat McAfee, someone who's not typically a wrestler, step into the ring, and we see Dominic Mysterio, who we've never really seen in an official capacity in the ring, wrestle in this match. How do we think that he's actually done?
I think he's done great. I mean, a big caveat here, like, we know he's been training for years. The ESPN article came out a couple of days before the show, which showed he's been training for upwards of like half a decade almost, like, of just doing stuff like this. So I think as far as like taking everything he's learned into account, absolutely he was impressive. I think that let him learn a little bit more, let him get a little bit more character under his back, like let him kind of fly on his own for a while. So like he can kind of get his own storylines and get his own moves off. And I think he'll be fine. I don't want to see him like lean into Ray's moveset too much. I want to see him create and do his own thing. And I think we're going to be able to see that in the next couple of years.
I wonder if we're going to see him kind of evolve as a professional, like actually go through the ranks, like if he's in NXT or something along those lines, or it's just purely a storyline kind of type of thing. That's kind of what I'm interested in.
That would be a shot in the arm for NXT, honestly. I think that he's definitely somebody that could be in the cruiserweight division and could really give a lot of star power to that division. I mean, you've got already Legado del Fantasma, you've got Swerve over there, you've got Kushida. Like, he could be facing basically like a learning tree of a lot of guys he could learn a lot from. So I love that idea.
Yeah, 100%. Let's wrap up our SummerSlam thing, even though a lot more stuff happened on the card itself. But let's wrap it up with the double women's championship matches. Bayley defeats Asuka to open up SummerSlam.
Before we do that,
go ahead.
let's raise Seth's jersey to the rafters.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, it's been there since he beat the hell out of that kid with the kendo stick.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure. Yes. I had to. I promised people on Twitter this week we'd be raising his jersey in the rafters. Seth is next to Asuka and Bayley. He's there. He's solidified. And then there's a provisional Becky. Like, you know how Taylor Swift has a jersey in the Staples Center? Becky has one right there. Becky has one right there. So they're all there.
Listen, they're all there. Let's talk about this Bayley Asuka match. I think it was, you know what? I don't think it was their best match, but I do think it was like serviceable in terms of like, okay, ultimately this is part one of this story, and it eventually led to part two where Asuka defeated Sasha Banks, which we're finally seeing. The most important thing about this is that we're finally seeing the seeds for the story. I mean, they've been there before, but I think they've got kind of lost in the whole like title shuffling, main event, show jumping type of deal. But we're finally kind of getting to see the real seeds being planted for this Bayley and Sasha program, and I am so happy.
I'm so.
How did you feel about it? How did you feel about this?
Props go out to Asuka. Let her get like 2 weeks off, please. I think they're going to give that to her this weekend. Let Asuka have a couple of weeks off. Like, she's been working a grueling schedule within the bubble, so to speak. Like she's worked every single week, every pay-per-view. She worked 3 times in a weekend, which is insane for her. Like, let her get a break. She's the Raw Women's Champion again. She should have never lost it, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure Meelz agrees. She should have never lost the title, but she has it back now. Let her get out of that storyline and let her move into her next storyline for the fall. I thought the Asuka-Sasha match was, to me, the strongest of the two. I just think Asuka and Sasha can do no wrong. I think Asuka and Bayley can do no wrong too, but Asuka and Sasha just have a chemistry that's just second to none. The sunset flip powerbomb was brutal. The top rope DDT that Asuka did to Sasha was freaking brutal. Like, these women just get each other, and I think that, like, let's just say this now, like, it's the 4 horsewomen, but you got to put Asuka on that level too. It's the 4 horsewomen and Asuka, because that's the women's division. Those are the measuring sticks for this division. And I know Asuka had that 1 year where she was off, but ever since she's come back from that and she turned heel and she got the tag titles with Kyrie, she's been on another level since then. And she's finally come into her own, and she's realized the vision that we've always had for her as far as being the workhorse for the division, and she's there now.
Yeah, I mean, I think this SummerSlam was just the personification of that. It's like, damn, she's a workhorse. She legitimately worked 2 matches in one SummerSlam card, which is very rare air for any superstar. Right. And just to be able to continue to weave that story and kind of get Bayley and Sasha and everything like that, I think it's amazing. I'm happy, especially after Raw, which I guess we can transition into. We're moving off of that subject. We had the rematch in the semi-main event of the show with Asuka versus Sasha.
Sasha jobbed. Let's be clear, that was like 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, listen, we back. You know what I'm saying?
She's super jobbed. I think the storyline here is that Sasha twice in a row has asked for Bayley's help or needed Bayley's help, and Bayley has either neglected to give her help or just downright not been there when Bayley has been there for Sasha.
Yeah, and
Sasha's been there for Bayley.
You can look at the history from WrestleMania to every title match after that for Bayley. Sasha Banks has always been there, and Sasha Banks has always been the factor as to why Bayley retained. And the one time we asked you to do something, you can't even do that. So we're seeing the seeds planted, but not only are we seeing the seeds planted, we're gonna flip around on this thing, because while we're here at Sasha and Bayley, we might as well just go into their payback plans. Payback, WWE Payback is looming in the background because it is coming this Sunday.
Yes, it's not even in the background; it's in the foreground. We don't get a break.
Listen, so WWE Payback is this Sunday on the WWE Network. We got some matches. They decided to go ultra speed on the booking of the show. They said, let's take what we're gonna do in 4 weeks, which was probably like 4 weeks of Drew getting kicked in the head, and let's do it in one night. Sasha Banks and Bayley. We knew that the match going into Payback, they would have to defend their women's tag team championships. I thought that was a great little add of booking to this entire thing. Just like it's looming that's what I meant in the background, kind of. It's looming in the background. Like beyond them having to defend their championships at SummerSlam, they also have to remember they're defending their tag team championships the following week. And we learned their opponent this week in quite possibly the most head-scratching way that I will say that I've ever seen a match kind of being put together.
I mean, it basically, Nia, it kind of turned the whole heels beating up the face thing. Shayna's a face?
Shayna's a face. Kinda.
I like it.
Yeah, she's a face.
She's a tweener. I like it.
Okay. I agree.
like it.
I think, they kicked off Monday Night Raw with Bayley versus Shayna Baszler, which I thought, great match. I mean, why not?
Really good.
Kick off
really
the Thunderdome with that. And then it ended with Nia Jax interfering. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, they get into their little hockey fight type of thing. Sasha and Bayley try to retreat. Apparently Shayna and Nia thought that they were now being used by these tag team champions that they've only come in contact with once.
Would you look at that? Would you look at that? They looked. I think Nia even said, "What's so funny?" When she looked at Sasha and Bayley, I was like, "That was a nice touch." What I didn't like was that promo in the beginning where there was an Addams Family jab and Shayna mentioned something that only an old white man could have written. Can we let these ladies have their own, promos unscripted here? I thought that was just really unnatural. Like, I didn't like the promo they had with each other, but I guess they're going to be the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's just get into the predictions. Like, I think there's no chance that they win this. I think that this is in service. This is in service of their storyline, which I think they're gonna stretch out the Asuka Shayna match as long as possible, which is smart. I would even stretch it out as far as to like go to maybe TLC, because I think with Survivor Series coming up, and there's no pay-per-view in October. So with Survivor Series coming up, I think you have Asuka and Shayna kind of battle it out to be team leader, team captain for Team Raw. So I think that would be an interesting wrinkle for those two. But I think that we're gonna get Nia and Shayna next month. What's the next one? Clash of Champions in September. So I wouldn't bank on them winning this, but I think that this will also still set up more of a break between Sasha and Bayley, and I think they need to drop it to a real tag team. So that's my opinion. Sasha and Bayley.
Yeah. I think, I do think they need to drop it to a real tag team. I think the only reason that they have the tag team championships is in service to being able to do a program on multiple shows.
Yes.
And have multiple opponents because they've ran through the SmackDown roster like no one's business.
And they needed to, ratings-wise and just show-wise. They were the hottest program in the summer. I mean, just to be honest, like they needed them on all shows. We're in the Thunderdome, baby. We don't need y'all no more. Y'all can go back to y'all show.
You know what? I'm not completely sure they'll retain, but I don't think it's a great idea to put it on Shayna and Nia, just personally. Just because it's really out of nowhere. You don't need them both on both shows. It clearly looks like you're still doing a Nia and Shayna program, so why have them hold the tag team championships? So we'll see. But, that is the Payback match. It's going to be hell for Bayley, and I think Bayley and Sasha will play their role because Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax is a scary motherfucking team.
Yeah. On paper. So we'll see. Also on Monday Night Raw, let's see. Let's start here. Randy Orton wreaks havoc on Drew McIntyre all night. Legitimately all night. He's like the first person to get the jump on Drew in the past 5 months. Like he's the first person to actually outsmart him.
I think, I think Randy Orton, after losing that match the way he did, decided, I'm done with all the cool, calm, and couth type of thing. Now we're kicking the shit out of people. And that's what he did on Monday night. He kind of had enough of everywhere where Drew's going. He kind of broke the entire kind of mold, the kind of like the whole character that he's built over the last number of months with Edge and the Legend Killer. the Legend Killer was kind of like the smooth killer type of thing, I think. And he would have those moments where he just like, you know, he ends up like, oh, he's snapping and he kicks a person in the head. He decided to forego all that smooth shit and just started kicking Drew McIntyre in the head. It starts off Monday Night Raw. Drew McIntyre gets a punt twice in the head in Gorilla. How do you feel about Gorilla fights? I was like, what?
They did it with Fiend and Braun, a match that I thought was heavily truncated because of the Roman return. I feel like they wanted to do a lot more before Roman said, okay, I'm coming back. But I think it's fine. I think it's because they might not have a whole backstage area set up yet. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because there was a lot of room in there. I was like, aren't there people supposed to be here?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? But no, they did. I mean, we got the double punt in the Gorilla. Randy Orton comes out to cut another promo, essentially saying like, yo, Drew, I'm coming back for your WWE Championship. Drew comes back out, gets punted. Well, he comes back out. I think
later.
Go ahead.
He comes out later. Before Drew comes out, Randy is interrupted by...
Oh, yes.
Makes his debut on Raw. And pretty much the internet...
Sure.
I wasn't there live in person for this. So you gotta hype me to how people felt about it. But yeah. people were not happy.
I think people were generally... All right, so here's the thing. You have the general excitement for Keith Lee debuting on Monday Night Raw, which is, and then you kind of have the skewed kind of reaction when you see not only has his music changed, which kind of threw everyone off a loop, but his gear has changed. And, I mean, granted, those are kind of like, ultimately, in the long run, those don't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, those are very small things. You know, ultimately, he's still Keith Lee. He's still debuting on Monday Night Raw. He's still facing Randy Orton. So I think those are very small things. But you kind of get a look of like, okay, have they seen Keith Lee? Like, does Vince McMahon truly know how good Keith Lee is? And that's kind of what I asked myself when he's now here wrestling in a top. He's right here wrestling in shorts. They don't even match. That's kind of what I was wondering. How did you feel about Keith Lee's kind of debut on Monday Night Raw?
I was 3 hours late to the party. I mean, obvious disgust at his theme. I thought that the theme thing is just, to me, a big part of him. But I think that's because we are, again, I can be guilty of it too, very sensitive about certain performers on the show. The gear, he's never had really cool gear. I always thought his gear looked a little bit janky anyway. His gears always look janky. Like the Black Lives Matter shit was cool, but it looked like it was done like in the middle of the mall. But like,
yeah, Makazi needs to hook him up. What's going on?
And I think that's what we're gonna get to. Listen, gear can change. To me, like the gear can change.
Yeah, gear can change. It's not important.
Yeah, it's never been like to me that big of a deal. The song, of course, is the issue. And Sean Ross Sapp actually had a Fightful update on the song today where he said basically what I thought. It was a clearance issue. So Keith's song, even though he was rapping on it, was actually produced by CFOs who don't work with the WWE anymore. And basically Keith had to sign off on a new song. So much like Garza and Umberto, who had rotating themes when they first got called up.
We had fire themes, yes. Let's talk about that. Yeah, His themes were fuego,
and they had to. Well, I've come around to Angel's theme. It's a lot slower, but it's basically the same theme that he had. It's just a lot slower. I think that
Angel Garza type beat, yes,
yeah,
of course.
But I mean, it's not terrible. But it's just interesting to me what CFO stuff they kept and what they didn't keep. Like Street Profits theme is clearly not a Def Rebel song. Like no. It's not like no. certain like Sasha Banks is CFOs.
Not yet.
Bailey's is Def Rebel, of course, but I mean, a lot of people still have their CFOs theme, probably because they're just synonymous with it. Keith gets a clean break here, and essentially he's he has a new song, but I think that can change. As far as him in the ring, as far as his positioning, he's not done at all. I didn't see him. Yeah. I didn't see him being destroyed from the moment he got there. Randy gave him a lot on Monday for the DQ. He gave him a lot.
He's going to be a big deal. I think that's what it kind of shows. Do I think if I had to rate this on the tier of like call ups in terms of like who is the future and like who is like just a call up that we just threw out here, he's high on the scale. Yeah. I would say probably the highest call up that I can ever give in like kind of call up history is the Shield. The Shield had like a 5-year plan built into them as soon as they came up.
And to bring in a singles competitor, Finn Balor. I mean, Finn Balor night one beat Roman Reigns. Keith Lee night one is in a match with Randy Orton and doesn't take a pinfall. Like, and his DQ loss is in service of a story. He didn't get pinned, and then he even mentioned it even later in the show. Mentioned, if Drew was here, I would have told him, don't interrupt my match. But now that I see what happened to him, because of course Drew gets a third punt right after that, which leads Keith to challenge Randy Orton at Payback, and we're going to get Randy Orton versus Keith Lee at Payback. If you would have told me this 2 years ago that this would have fucking been happening, I would have laughed at you in your face. This is his first real pay-per-view, first match against a Hall of Famer in Randy Orton. I think the match is going to be really good. Like, I think Randy's moving at a different clip. And I think that the way that, what he showed on Monday, if that's any preview of how he's going to work for Keith on Sunday, I think he's going to be in good hands. Now, the question comes...
I don't even think he needs to work. Keith is really good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
talking about selling. I'm talking about selling for him.
Oh, right. Right, of course. But Keith, like I say this, because that's why I don't think there's a necessarily problem with all these changes. Keith Lee is insanely good. He has got the WWE style kind of down. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not completely perfected, but he's got it down to a T where it's right movements. It's the right tone. It's the right timing. It's kind of everything that you kind of want out of a star that's going to be a major star in the WWE in the future. He creates moments himself. He goes, I won't say it's like he goes into business for himself, but he stops and he's like, okay, let me assess kind of what's going on. And he's everything that all the old people say of like, oh my God, you gotta, they're going too fast. He's very deliberate in the things that he does, and I think that's why he was so appreciated in NXT.
Yeah, I like when he caught Randy's punch. Like, you don't see spots like that anymore. Like, not even Braun does that spot. You don't see that. And I thought what was really interesting, and I mentioned this again, is that Keith had stopped doing that acrobatic, athletic stuff in NXT months ago when he won the title. So, like, when, after that, he kind of moved into a slow style. And I was like, he's kind of working WWE style now. He's not really doing the big, he's more power move oriented, but he's still good at doing that. And I think if we get the Keith where he does the pop up, where he pops up on somebody from behind, we still get that. I think that's still amazing. I think we can still work with that. Now, as far as the match, I'm of the mind here that a loss won't hurt Keith because, again, you have to keep Randy strong. But I also am of the mind that, like, if they're going to be, putting a lot behind Keith, you have him beat Randy now so that Randy can beat Drew, in the rematch, and that Keith can say, hey, I have a right to get a title shot. Because to me, on Raw, it looks like everyone's taken right now. Everyone's accounted for on Raw right now. Why not have Drew versus Orton versus Keith? There's no one really out there right now. It looks to me, U.S. titles taken for Alistair and KO. They have their own thing going on. Why not just let Keith run with it? And I think that's just my thought. So I'm gonna predict that. And I'm not gonna be mad if he loses. I'm not gonna say he's done if he loses because I don't think losing to Randy Orton is like a burial. But I think Keith Lee wins this match.
I also agree. I think Keith Lee wins this match. I don't think you give him... I mean, like you said, we're not going to be mad if it happens.
Yeah.
It's just the name of the game. But I don't think at this point... Give Keith Lee the win.
Why not?
You're not really doing anything to just build him, establish him at this point. It does nothing for Randy. Randy Orton is not out of the title picture because he lost to Keith Lee.
Yeah. Keith Lee's a double, kayfabe-wise, he's the only double champion in NXT. He's the only guy that's done all these things. We've seen him before in these shows. We've seen him handle Roman Reigns. We've seen him handle Drew McIntyre. Why not?
Drew McIntyre is probably going to come out anyway with something wrapped over his head. I don't know. We're selling something. and just like, Claymore Randy Orton for the culture. So I think we'll see Keith Lee win. That's what I think we'll see.
Or what if the story is Drew keeps interrupting Keith's matches and that's what makes them not cool anymore?
Oh, that would suck. That would suck. Then I would have to powerbomb Drew McIntyre. I would have to spirit bomb powerbomb that motherfucker for interrupting his match.
Yeah. But in all, I other than the gear and the music, I remain optimistic. Not even cautiously. I remain optimistic because we've seen people get called up, Meelz. We've seen some people get called up in the last couple of years. We've seen Kairi Sane get called up. We've seen
Absolutely.
We've seen Shinsuke Nakamura get called up and go right into Dolph Ziggler. Right, they're doing something different with Keith Lee, and I think we gotta pay attention to see where they're going with this.
Absolutely, I agree. We should probably note that let's see, there's another match on the show. I mean, I don't know why they didn't do this on SummerSlam, but they did it. We're getting on Payback. Apollo Crews versus Bobby Lashley for the U.S. Championship.
So stupid. Just give it to Bobby. I'm done.
I would say just give it to Bobby, but I don't think they're gonna give it to Bobby.
I feel like they booked Apollo to be such a punk, yo. Like he looks like a punk. All he does is like really childish shit, like on the arm wrestling thing. He didn't look strong to me. He ended up cheating Bobby back.
Right.
So
he doesn't. He just doesn't look like. I mean, when you put him in the ring, he's got the skills to pay the bills. It's fine, but it is. But in terms of the character wise, in terms of the story wise, you got to kind of give him an edge. And you took that away from him when legitimately he gets taken out for a complete month, and then he returns kind of like nothing happens and beats the guy. Like you didn't give him that edge. You didn't give him that thing for people to kind of rally behind. And I think that's what people essentially want to do is rally behind Apollo Crews. But you just can't at this point. Like there's so many factors that play against him. Like the Hurt Business is just cooler than Apollo Crews.
Yeah, and they beat him up. They beat him up every week, and he runs away from them. Like, well, how am I supposed to? They look cooler to me than them. That's like I'm looking at Cedric Alexander. Like, why don't you just join them?
Well, you better join them. Come on, you better back up.
They beat your ass just in progress, joined in progress on Raw Underground this week. Like, what? They're unstoppable, bro. Like
that's what was so cool about it. They were legitimately mad, and then they said it's time to go fuck people up, and decided to enter Raw Underground, beat up Dolph Ziggler, which is always a plus in my book. Beat up the War Raiders for whatever reason that they did, probably just because they're I don't want to say what they did, but
I mean to go to the War Raiders, I have no effing clue what is going on with the tag title situation on Raw. Street Profits need guys. I know this draft is like a long way away, but let's be clear, it don't look good for tag teams even with the draft because there aren't that many tag teams on NXT anyway, unless they're going to move up into Cher or somebody.
It doesn't look good. I think they're hoping maybe more. I mean, but people have been slowly coming back. Like I don't know what else they're kind of waiting for. Like, are we waiting for Bobby Roode to come back, like so he can be in team with Dolph Ziggler or something? Like, I think, or are we waiting for whatever my man from AOP to be unhurt so he can come back? I'm not sure what we're kind of waiting for, but yeah, you're right. They need more opponents. They need new opponents.
Unless Undisputed is coming. That's a thought.
I mean, that would be great. That would be great.
That's a thought.
Let's see what else we got here. I want to close with the triple threat match, so I'll just say SmackDown is coming on this Friday.
Yes.
There's likely to be additional matches added. What we can only surmise, in my opinion, is I think a rematch between Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles will be added. Mm-hmm. I think it's the quickest thing. But then again, they've just done some random shit. They've just started booking matches out there. Like Shayna Baszler just looked at Bayley and she got a title shot. So who knows?
Well, she beat her. She beat her last week. That's why.
Well, okay, fair. They are the tag team titles. Were they defended on SmackDown this week? Last week? I think it was just a tag team match.
It was a tag team match.
No. Stupid Lucha I was about to say Lucha House Party. They
broke up.
Halfway breaking up anyway. Yeah. So,
which is ridiculous because unless they're bringing Forgotten Sons back, and that's where we're gonna go with the tag title situation now, which doesn't make sense because they're heels and Cesaro and Nakamura are heels as well. So I don't think they're coming back. But again, the tag team
might have to unify them titles, man. They might have to unify those titles.
Why not at this point? I think that I remember we've heard that they've had new tag team titles for a while. So
yeah,
why not? I think
have to unify them.
Another thing that I think we're kind of missing here is that I think Riddle and Corbin is going to happen this weekend too. So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen.
That would be great.
Yeah, so
because that's been that's been on the back burner for how long? But that would be great.
Well, SmackDown's opening up, and I think that you want to free up Riddle, you want to free up Corbin, you want to free up AJ. Like I kind of hinted to earlier, is like I think AJ losing the IC title is not a mistake, and I think that's going to go into the triple threat. I'm gonna give my J5 booking on this.
Okay, all right. Okay, AJ versus Roman in the fall, heading through the winter. Maybe a little Royal Rumble action. I'm not gonna say that. You're gonna hate what I'm gonna say, but let's talk about the triple threat. Oh my God. Okay, all right. So the triple threat match, obviously, this Fiend Braun Strowman program. You add Roman Reigns into it, and now it's ultimately must see. Like, not miss. I was like, this even looks good on paper. Like, look at him. Look, all three of them. Like, it's just monster after monster after monster. It's amazing. They only have 1 week to promote it, but at the end of the day, it's like, yo, it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah, we don't need much. We know the vibes.
Let's not even kid ourselves. Roman Reigns versus The Fiend versus Braun Strowman. Who do you see coming out this match?
I think that
it's got to be Roman. It's got to be Roman, please.
No, I don't think that he's going to win. I think that The Fiend is going to retain, and I think Otis is going to cash in. And I think it's going to be Otis and AJ in the fall. And I think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be.
No,
and I think it's gonna either be Roman. It's probably gonna be Roman and Braun again, and I think that or Roman Braun Fiend without the title, and I think that it's gonna eventually lead to AJ Roman or Riddle AJ or something like that down the line. I don't think Roman's gonna win that title until WrestleMania. Basically,
I think. Nah, we can't do that again. I'm done with that life. I'm done with the life of waiting for Roman to win this at WrestleMania. It just doesn't happen.
Or Rumble. Like, because to me, my shoe-in for men's Royal Rumble this year is Matt Riddle.
I'm saying it might be Keith Lee winning that Royal Rumble, bro. If they play their cards right, it might be Keith Lee. I'm saying...
What is the Rumble of the Thunderdome going to look like? That's going to be so weird.
That's so weird, right?
They have to get 20% capacity in there for that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I think before the end of the year, we get Roman versus Goldberg at some point.
Survivor Series.
Goldberg has been he's been talking to whatever chicken fried podcast thing.
Jesus Christ!
Letting them know that. I got 2 matches a year, brother, for the next 5 years. And Roman's a pussy. Like, that's what it's not verbatim, but he said something like that. So I think before the end of the year, Goldberg's thing's another match. It doesn't seem like they're going to Saudi Arabia anytime soon, unless they are. I don't know. I think we're going to get Roman versus Goldberg at Survivor Series. So I think
they don't need a title for that. That's why that's what factored into my thinking, Meelz, because I was like, okay, get the cash in over with. The Fiend don't need the belt. We know this, and I think he knows this. He doesn't need the belt. He probably don't even want the shit because he can't carry the show with that fucking gimmick. Have Otis win it. Have AJ get the belt back from Otis in October. There's no pay-per-view in October, Meelz. It's completely fine.
Why are you so sure Otis has to win this belt?
Because
why can't Otis completely get a lock put through his head?
So would you rather him win it on Payback or win it at WrestleMania at the end of the show?
You're asking me if I would rather Otis win a world championship?
He's gonna win the title.
No, I would not rather Otis win a world championship.
He's gonna win the title. Fail. He's gonna win the title, and AJ is gonna beat him for it. And AJ is gonna then move into either Matt Riddle or Roman Reigns after Survivor Series. AJ's getting that title back, and I think that's the reason he dropped the IC title, because they were still wondering what the fuck. Because remember I said this, they can't have these guys beating weird characters to win the title because they have to do weird storylines. Roman is not doing a weird Fiend storyline. He's just not going to do that.
Here's what I'm going to do. All right, since we're booking Otis winning this championship. Otis does, he cashes in at Payback. Then at Clash of Champions, there's a fatal 4-way match, and we get the title right back off him.
That's too much hot shotting, though, Meelz. That's way too much hot shotting. That is way too. That's 3 title changes in a month.
We're trying to get a dignified reign out of Otis. We're trying to get a run out of Otis.
So what
are you kidding me?
What are some outcomes where he doesn't win this title and he still comes out looking good? Because they want to make Otis look good. They love Otis.
He goes back to heavy machinery. What the fuck does he want? What does he want? He's got Mandy.
I could see them
supposed to win the stupid.
I could see them winning the tag titles though. I could see that with no New Day. They do need depth. That's why I think that they get the belt off of him at least by October, so that they can win the tag titles.
This is insane. I don't like planning this. I don't like planning around Otis at all.
Meelz, he's got to cash in sometime. I don't think it's an incident that he came out with the damn briefcase at SummerSlam. I was like, okay, I forgot he had it. I don't think Roman's taking the pinfall on Sunday, no, but I do think that the Fiend is going to squeeze by. Maybe Roman spears Braun or something, and Fiend picks it up or something like that, where Roman still looks clean. But I think Otis will cash in on the Fiend.
That would be insane. Oh my god.
I'm so, and I know this makes too much sense, but I'm so sure that AJ is winning the WWE Universal title because he's gonna get a Grand Slam, and it's good, or he's gonna get like a double Grand Slam, and I think it's gonna happen this year.
Yeah, it probably will. I would say he definitely will win, or at least contend for it at some point.
Because it was just too weird that he lost it on the first night of the Thunderdome. I was like, okay, he's definitely going to go back up to the top of the card.
Maybe they just want to make the Thunderdome look important.
So you have him lose the title, and then what's he going to do after that? He ain't going to go face Drew Gulak. He ain't facing.
He faced whoever Daniel Bryan tells him to face. Damn it, that's who you face.
But all in all, to be honest, like on paper, Payback looks solid as a SummerSlam B show, like SummerSlam night weekend 2. It looks solid. Yeah. It looks like a really solid card.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good, especially for a week's notice. It looks good.
But that is everything that has happened in wrestling this week. Of course, you can check us out on the A Show every single week, but you can check out Cyrus and the return of the War Report with a special guest this week. They've had like a couple of week hiatus, and he's back this week to talk about AEW and NXT in new time slots. This week. I think AEW is Thursday and NXT is Wednesday, so that's going to be very interesting for him to talk about this week. But as always, thank you guys for listening to the A Show. Please subscribe to us and leave us a comment. Leave us 5 stars on iTunes and follow us at RNC Radio Live for more content coming out of the show. So until next week, hopefully I'm praying that my theory is correct in this world title match, Universal title match between the Triple Threat. I think it's going to happen. I think Otis is going to be standing tall at the end of the show.
Good Lord. May God help us all. Literally.
So until then, thank you all for listening to the A Show. For Meelz, I am Justin. Please wash your hands and wear a damn mask. See you later. Peace.